Hello everybody. We are going to go live in about 15 minutes. Who have we got in the chat? We got Joe Marmosine yet? Got a feeling we got a Joe in the chat. Wondering if we're going to get more of a US based audience because of the change in time. This is the latest stream that I've done. We'll get going in 15 minutes. Hey everybody, I see we got Ezra, Joe Marmstein and Brian Jones in the chat. What's up? And we got Miranda in the voice. How you doing, Miranda?
I'm good. Should I bring up the video in my computer too so I can see the chat?
Yeah, if you can load the chat up, that'd be great. And then yeah, if you're able to keep half an eye on it, I'm kind of keeping an eye on the video and playing it and rewinding and pausing and stuff. So sometimes I miss the chat. Sometimes it gets crazy. Sometimes it's nice and well, a little bit more chill. So it just depends.
Cool.
Benji's saying that it's past his bedtime. Benji's also in the
UK. Awesome.
Yeah, it is a late one.
Make it worth it.
Cool. Okay, we're going to go live in about 30 seconds.
Okay.
All right, everybody, time to alt tab over. Let me just put the announcement out on Discord. Live now. Sweet, there we go. Cool, yeah, and Miranda, you'll have to mute the stream on YouTube, otherwise we'll
I think I did.
Okay, nice work. All right, cool. Here we go. Let's go live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the stream. I am Felix from Felix Ultimate. I'm joined today by a legend in the game. It's Miranda Roth Knowles. Hello, Miranda. How are you?
I'm very good. Thanks for having me.
Oh, a pleasure. So if anybody hasn't seen this stream before, then it's like an analysis stream, not really like a watch party. It takes a lot longer than a watch party, so it'll be split over like 2 parts. We go through the game looking at the details, right? So it can be on the technique, it can be on like what caused this turnover, what was the reason why they scored, looking at the offense, looking at the defense, strategy type stuff. We get stuck into it, and it can take a while. I think I'm quite critical as well. I think I've seen a lot of other people kind of analyze, and they're just like, wow, this is great, look at this is amazing. And when I'm looking at stuff, I'm like, oh, that's a mistake, oh, they could have done that better. I'm not sure how you are, Miranda, when you look at video.
Well, it depends kind of how whether it's my internal monologue that's going or what actually comes out of my mouth, because I think as a coach we have to be really careful to be very positive and very instructional and clear, but there's a lot of filtering going on of what I actually see. So I'll try to do a little bit more of what I actually see, though I do have quite a few friends on this film tonight, so I'll try to be kind to them as well.
Well, I think the regular stream viewers are very used to kind of honest criticism. So
all right.
We've got Miranda looking at the chat on YouTube, so I'd like this to be kind of an interactive experience. So if you have comments about the game or questions, either about the game or about our analysis or just unrelated, then interact with us in the chat. Miranda's looking at it, I'll look at it when I can as well. And then afterwards, if we can like make time for it, then we'll have like 10 or 20 minutes with patrons in Discord if you want to chat in person or in voice to Miranda as well. So Miranda, could you maybe give us like a rundown of your kind of experience in Ultimate? I know that like you played when I was getting the DVDs drip fed from America, and you were featuring big on them. So maybe you can give us like a lowdown on kind of your whole experience in the last 20 years or so, and how this game that we're going to watch kind of ties in with that.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm originally from Atlanta in the US, and I was really lucky. I went to Paideia High School, which you might have heard of if you've been around Ultimate. There are lots of relatively famous alumni of that school, and I actually was a basketball and soccer player first there, but my friend sort of stole me over to Ultimate Frisbee my junior year, and then I sort of fell head over heels for the sport and ended up going to Carleton College, which is kind of another one of those places where you go when you really care about Ultimate, and got to play there. And then followed a bunch of my teammates and the best team in the world at that time, and potentially right now too, was Seattle Riot. So I moved out to Seattle. I went to University of Washington for graduate school, and then played for Riot for 7 years. And then my now husband and I moved to, well, I should say that right then, that is when this game happened. It was the year after I finished playing for Riot. So we'll get to see what it's like to not have me on Riot for the first time at nationals in this film today. But then what I was doing while this was happening, I was actually watching this game at like 3 a.m. living in Shanghai. Because we moved to Shanghai. I was teaching at a boarding school there, and was playing and captaining the Shanghai Hua, which is the mixed team in Shanghai. And got to be, fun fact is that I'm a national champion in the United States and in China. So that's kind of fun. And then after 2 years in China, I moved back to Atlanta. So I'm back here coaching and teaching at Paideia School. It's all come full circle. And it's like a dream job, because I loved being a student and an athlete at Paideia, and now I get to be back here. And now the coaching that I'm doing right now, I coach my high school girls, Paideia Groove. I also coach Atlanta Chain Lightning and the Atlanta Hustle, the club and pro men's or open teams here. And I'm also on the coaching staff for the U.S. National Open team, which hopefully we'll get to compete sometime next summer.
Yeah, I'm sure you that team will compete sometime. I don't think anyone should make any guesses of a when, but yeah,
right.
At the next Worlds, that's what I've been saying.
That would be great.
Brilliant. Yeah, I mean, I first heard your name, I think, when watching those DVDs, Ulti Village ones, and there was definitely like a season or a tournament or two where, every time there was like an absolutely outstanding play, I'd be like, "Well, who was that?" And every time it was you.
That was a long time ago. I think that might have been 2005.
Yeah. So how did that how did that transition happen between then being like the top player and then transitioning into coach? Kind of how did that kind of come about?
Yeah. So I wonder. I bet this talk is still happening, but. I won the Callahan Award in 2004, and moved out to Seattle. And one of my friends, who was also in Seattle at the time, Ben Wiggins, had just won the Callahan in 2003, and he had the talk with me, which is, Miranda, you won this important award. It doesn't mean anything unless you pass it on. And so at the time, he was coaching Seattle Moho, which was this like conglomerate team of kids from different high schools in Seattle that just wanted to play the sport more, and there weren't a ton of high school teams in Seattle at the time. So kids that were like elite in that way got together. This is before YCC by like a year or two. And so he invited me out to coach with him, and I really took those words to heart, because I had also had really great coaches. Michael Baccarini was my coach at Paideia, and Phil Bowen and Thomas Sebi and Julia Weiss-Young were all my coaches at Carleton. And so I really believe, and they had done it for completely free. I did think, okay, now I have some knowledge, I should pass it on. And so I coached Moho for like 4 or 5 years, and then sometime in there, the Seattle Small Fries also sort of became a thing out of Moho kind of fading away. And so a lot of really amazing athletes, again, were coming together, playing sort of club ultimate as youths outside of their high school teams. And so if you like watching like Khalif El-Salam and Jesse Bolton and Nina Finley and, Ari Lozano, all of those kids, I had the pleasure of coaching when they were like 13 years old.
Wow.
Until they were like 17 years old. So that was my first, honestly, like the team I'm most proud of coaching, maybe, because they were just so amazing. And I don't know, we were talking about how you like experimenting with different offenses and defenses. And what a coach really needs is a lab, right? You need a team to run all these experiments with. And for me, that was the Fries. That was the first time I had kind of wondered, like, what would it be like in a horizontal offense if you didn't really have handlers and cutters, you just had people, and like where the disc was and who had it dictated what their position was. And they were just like so receptive to that and just ran with it. And yeah, a lot of times if I wanted to run some drill at Riot practice, I would do it with the small Fries the weekend before and see how it went. So
that's very similar to my experience as well. I think a lot of innovation and can come from that kind of setup. And it's, as a coach, it's kind of like a very kind of lucky and rewarding kind of position to be in when you have both that high level team and then the kind of like college level or more developing team where you bring in beginners and train them up. And I had the same. I've got the same thing with Mohawks and Brighton. It's as a coach, it's an experience that I'd wish upon every coach to have a couple of seasons of that, because you get these coaches who immediately go into coaching a high level team, and like, what the chances of innovating there? They have to have ridiculous amount of like confidence in their own kind of paperwork, theories and stuff, to just immediately throw them out onto this top level team. And getting buy-in from experienced players is difficult as well, because the experienced players are experienced at playing Ultimate in the way that they know how to play it. So if you suggest something vastly different, then it's far less likely to actually gain traction. Stick to what you know kind of thing, isn't it?
Yeah. I remember one time I wanted to work on a cutting drill, and I was captaining Riot, and I was asking them to do this drill, like basically a sideline trap drill with no disc, like with a pretend disc. And the looks that I got from some of the older vets were just like so disdainful. They were like, "Ugh, no frisbee," and I was like, "Yeah, let's just try it." Yeah. It's so hard to get that buy-in. But,
yeah, I got the university team. Sorry, what were you saying?
No, even when it's gonna really be helpful, it's so hard to break through that initial pushback. Yeah, for sure. I remember one time I got the university team. I was trying to get them learning about spacing, right, and being aware of the spacing. We were chatting a bit about ways that we can train that. And so I got everyone to kind of mill around, right, whilst maintaining distance, which is something that people are very used to doing right now. Like, as I don't know when you're walking down the street, you come across a crossroads and there's a few people arriving at the same time. There's like a little dance that happens now, where people try and maintain 1 meter plus. But yeah, I tried to get them on the frisbee field, everyone moving around, doing that. And some of the more experienced players were just like dangling their arms down by their sides, just walking around going, "Oh, why are we doing this stupid thing?" And it's like, "No, come on, like, you should be doing it best if you find it boring." We got conspiracies started in the chat. Good stuff. Right, yeah. That's no chat for ages. No conspiracies. All right, donation, Joe Bumstein. Thank you. That means that we give Rue biscuits. I don't know if you can see on the stream. Tell me about Rue. Yeah.
She's my little cat. She is 8 years old, and she's a tuxedo cat. She makes little noises. She's excited to get some biscuits. So hopefully I can thank you for the donation, Joe. Every time I get a donation, then I give Rue a couple of biscuits. Rue. Oh, did you hear the noise?
I have a pet rabbit, but she's less personable than Rue.
Well, Rue's not personable to anybody other than me. She's like, she stays away from people, and she's very shy. But around me, Yeah, I think she thinks that I'm her parent.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, she's super cute. She like wakes me up in the morning by like cuddling up next to me sometimes. Anyway, we are here for Frisbee, so just a couple more biscuits for Root. Thank you, Joe. And then we'll get into the game.
Awesome.
Yeah, she was being super cute whilst you were talking. She was like rolling around on her back. She did that thing where like puts her paws over her head and like kind of hugs herself. Super cute. Okay. Right, into the game. So I've got like full video control, so if there's anything you want to like replay or see again or anything, just let me know and I can just go forwards and backwards however many seconds I want.
Sure. Yeah, and if anybody has any questions about any of these athletes, because this is the team from right after when I stopped playing, I know the Riot players and the Fury players quite well if anybody wants to know more.
Jay Mamusi's asked if you can give some context behind the game, like the history between the two teams.
Yeah, so sort of like deeper history. Fury won nationals a couple times in the early 2000s, and then Riot won a couple times, 04 and 05, and then Fury won in 06, 07, 08. 08 was that horrible comeback that was also awesome for them, I guess. And then they also won in 09 and in 2010. In 09, Riot, we lost to the Capitals in pool play, and so we had to see Fury in the semis. So then they crushed Brute Squad they crushed Brute Squad in the semis. And then in 2010, we lost to the Capitals again in semis, and then Fury crushed Fury crushed the Capitals in the finals that year in 2010. And so this game here is the first time Riot and Fury had met in the national finals in 3 years. So this is a really big game, sort of. And even though Riot wasn't in the finals the previous 2 years, I think Riot was very much a top team. I think that was the only time we lost to a non-Fury team in those 3 years, probably. So this was a kind of a 3-year awaited game.
Fury moving the disc well.
Okay.
Emily Damon up to
I'm just moving the little windows around the screen. Oh, there's a turnover. Let's have a look at that. Oh yes, so I believe this basically an overthrow.
Fury moving the disc well.
Yeah, so that's Alex Snyder and Emily Damon and Liz Penny, all amazing players. And that's maybe Lakshmi Narayan, I think.
Oh,
gets overthrown.
Yeah, good awareness of the defender to be ready for that, though.
Right, that's Hannah Kawai in the lane there, and I agree. I really like how she doesn't just drift back with her mark to the end zone, to the back of the end zone. Stays in the lane.
Josh has been making athletic plays all week.
I think another good piece of setup on this is to understand the climate. U.S. Nationals haven't been in Sarasota in a while, but you can see the flags blowing in the wind. The wind is extremely strong in Sarasota, and as you're looking at it now, it's blowing toward the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. That's where the wind always blows in Sarasota, is like towards this camera angle and to the left. So right now, Riot is going downwind, and that's why that last throw and this one get pushed down into the ground, and Fury's working to go upwind here.
Yeah, but it's not fully up and downwind, as you say. It's like a flag in the background there that kind of...
Yeah, so it is this cross from right to left and like towards this angle here.
So this defender and the end zone here kind of just gets a little bit out of sync. They end up, I think they're disc watching a little bit here. They see the cut start, and then by the time they react to the cut, the actual cutters start going the other way. So...
great. That's number 3, Gwen Ambler, is playing that defense. I do want to, maybe you can rewind it one more time, because the throw that sets up that the scoring throw is a very Fury throw that's inside out that goes from Emily Damon to Liz Penny. So this one
And
here,
Fury is on the
that
board.
is Alex Snyder's bread and butter, and a lot of her teammates over the years have developed it as well, learning it from her.
Yeah, that's nice. So let's see that. So the cut goes up the line. The defender is close enough to commit. And as soon as that defender commits, then there's the inside out channel.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we call that the wrinkle when I was playing in Clapham. Wrinkle cut.
Yep. Yeah. We call it, on my high school team, we call it the curl cut, like when it's from the handler space. Go up line and then curl it back to the middle.
Casey Aikido, welcome to the stream. They ask...
Hi, Casey. Casey was on Moho, that team I was talking about.
Oh, cool.
He was team husband.
That's okay.
Yeah, this was indeed a very young core. Like I mentioned, the previous year kind of graduated a whole bunch of longtime Riot players. So that's me, Liz Duffy, and Jen Wilson. All stopped playing after 2010. So then this team had a lot of new players. Well, yeah, some new players, but also just young players in big roles. So yeah, you see Shannon O'Malley, Alyssa Weatherford, Serge Griffith, Kate, Elise Cardenas, Hannah Kawai, all these folks that you still see on the scene now were, this is their first or second year playing club, maybe third or fourth.
So I'm just highlighting in this clip, I believe the thrower sees the option earlier on in the stall. So they look down, they can't get the disc through the cup to the wide open player. And so then when they look behind, they don't like this option because it's a good crash from the middle of the cup. So then they're like, oh, okay, I'll go back to the open player because one of the players from the cup crashed, so therefore I can throw it past the cup. But then when they look up, then actually these two defenders have closed them down, and then the throw is off to the side. I don't know whether the cup maybe had some interference in that.
Yeah, could we watch that one more time? So, and maybe just pause it when Shannon, just pause it there is good. And so maybe, so first of all, a couple frames back, Hannah Kawai is that like popper who's behind the 4-person cup, and even though she looks open, like a lot of us would maybe throw a scuba or something, a blade over the top, it's just too windy for that. The other thing you can see is Shannon is basically still looking downfield, but you see Heidi Marie Clemens, who's now actually married to my friend Ben Wiggins, who forced me to coach so many years ago. So Heidi Marie is already in that space inside the cup when Shannon starts to look for her. And so that timing, to my mind, is a bit off. That you actually want that crasher to be kind of behind, and then when they're addressed by the thrower, start making that cut. It's sort of like a reset, a normal dump reset. So see Shannon still looking downfield while Heidi Marie's already going through. Gwen, who's number 3 over here, is trying to come back, but by that time there's been all these adjustments. So the timing of that look, to me, for the offense is off.
Yeah, I think you're right, exactly right. That's great. Now it's just the player at the back, just a little bit itchy, like in this situation you can see, and they're making that move up through the middle, but the thrower is clearly looking over this way, so they just got to hold off on that. Yeah,
and the thing is, like, Riot is working upwind, and so that these people are in the game right now so that they can work the disc upwind, and getting a little over anxious in a national final is understandable.
Yeah, I've played in enough finals and coached enough that I know when some players deal with it very well. Some players will just play out of their skin and be the best they've ever played. Other players, you're just like, what are you doing? what's going on?
And there's no way to know who's who before the game.
Yeah. It's always a surprise.
And this, I think you really get to see the wind here in Liz Penny's throw. So she's throwing it, wants it to go straight down the line, and it gets pushed out and into that downwind corner.
Yeah, good positioning from the defense. But this dike is coming in. Is there I think there might be a foul on the throw here?
Yeah, I think it's like it's a high five basically. referee's left hand sort of stops the release. What do you think about that?
Well, it's kind of it looks like it could be after the release, but there's it could easily be before. There could be a collision of wrists in this frame here. Yeah.
And so also a little history about Liz Penny, that thrower. She's an amazing big player. She's, probably about my height, 5'9", 5'10", strong, physical on defense. And she's a very fair player also. She would not call a foul, I think, if it weren't a foul, because she wouldn't want people to do that to her when she's got her big mark on. So yeah. I trust her call.
Yeah. I'm just wondering about, would the disc, is that how the disc would fly if the contact happened? Also, just because it's not a foul doesn't mean that it's not called in good faith. So from this angle, I'd say it's probably not a foul, but the contact, you're very aware of the contact happens. You can't determine whether it was before or after the throw, so it can still be made in good faith.
Yeah. I do see a couple of questions in the chat. Maybe we should.
Yeah. Please do. There's
okay. So yeah, the 4-person cup, which we'll see from Fury quite a bit, as well as their we'll have to ask Matty Sang what he calls it, but their flexi 4-person cup, where someone in the cup often just goes and drifts onto the reset in the worst possible time for the offense. But yeah, I actually think we do see that some now. I think that because there are stronger throwers, you don't see it as much. That there are a lot more throwers who can put it over the top of the cup now. So we aren't seeing the 4-person cup maybe as much as like a 1-3-3 that traps one way that's like downwind or something like that.
It's just another one of these throws that gets kind of turned by the wind and pushed down low. Yeah. It's like 3 or 4 of them already.
Right, there are a ton of drops in this game, and I do still think they're drops because I always say if you can touch it, you should catch it. But that throw that ended in the turnover is absolutely directly upwind.
Right.
So it is hard.
I think turnover stats should always have 2 names on them.
Right.
Because there's always going to be a debate, right? Or it's always possible to have a debate. But sometimes it can really be the throwers. I'll make a throw to somebody who I don't expect to catch it, maybe because I throw it too hard, something like that, and I know that they don't like hard discs or something, Mm-hmm. But then a statistician looking at it being like, well, that's a drop, and I'll be like, well, actually, I think it's my fault. So I think thrower and receiver, even if the receiver doesn't even touch it, maybe the receiver's making a cut that the thrower can't throw to. I think there's too much debate that's possible. I think it's shared responsibility.
Yeah. And I mean, as a receiver, I always used to like it when I would, people would throw me kind of sketchy throws because I would get to make fun plays. And I think, when some of the athletes I coach now are they don't embrace that quite as much as I would like them to, is every crap throw is just a chance for a sweet catch.
Yeah, exactly. What do they lay out and then they get up and they're all angry and stuff. Oh, you maybe hit Sports Center top 10. Oh.
Right. Yeah, there's no way you would know who I was if I didn't have teammates throwing me chancy throws.
Yeah. I'm the same as you. I'd always just be like, they'd be like, oh, sorry. And I'm like, no, I love it.
Don't apologize. I do think this is actually a really important point for Riot, because they get broken Fury going upwind on that first point, and they're super close to getting broken again here, and instead they score upwind.
Yeah, it looks super weird, right? These fakes look super weird, and they kind of make me be like, oh, this isn't great, and then something great does happen. So it's almost like they're lulling the defense into a false sense of security with these unbelievable fakes, and they're just like, oh, actually, I can just release that. And the defense are like, what?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, when you have all 4 of those people that close to the disc, there are open people somewhere, and sometimes you just have to throw it and hope they go get it.
Yeah.
And yeah, this cup is it's double teaming, but it's legal because Gwen is in there as well, or the other handler is in there. So there's tons of people around the disc, but I don't think it's cheating or illegal at all. But yeah, as throwers, you just gotta find the open space and put the disc there and hope your receiver comes down with it, which I think it's Hannah Kawhi that does in this case.
Yeah, you can see like this whole area over here is undefended essentially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Somebody awesome just said something about the backhand. The last backhand makes me so uneasy. So yeah, if you play it from here, thank you for pointing that out, because this is my least favorite throw in the game of Ultimate.
It looks like it's going to drift outside.
Yeah, well, it's a backhand to the forehand side, right?
Oh,
I think not this one.
No.
But so Hannah gets it to Heidi Marie, and this should be a forehand, but it's not, and that's the really sketchy one. And you actually see that a backhand to the forehand side results in quite a few turnovers this game. And I think it's something that throwers that, don't want to be affected by the wind, or they aren't as strong, they can't switch to grips as well. So for new players, this is something I really try to, hammer home, is get it in the correct grip, make the correct throw, make it easy for your receiver, and it won't go out of bounds, right? Because that's danger on that too.
Okay, I tend to do not exactly the opposite, but I tend to be like, look, if you can throw a backhand, then why not throw a backhand? At the end of the day, it's just getting the disc from A to B, right? So long as it's not got an angle on it and it's drifting outside of the pitch a little bit like this one is, then if that's a throw that you're ready to throw and you can get the disc to the right place at the right time, then I kind of encourage people to go for it.
Yeah, I guess my question is why wouldn't you have a forehand there?
Well, it might take time to do the switch of grip, and also, I mean, whose forehands are stronger than their backhands? Maybe 10% of people. Getting the spin on the disc, stability, consistency. Obviously, ideally, everyone's got equal ability on both throws, but in reality, I don't think that's the case. That's a nice catch, that one.
Yeah. It's really too bad Hannah Kawhi, I coached her on Moho when she was a kid, and then she went to Brown for college, and so I didn't get to play with her. This was her first year on Riot, so she's a great player though. And yeah, everybody did love Sarasota. It was really fun always to be there, but as you'll see this game, there are some kind of unwatchable moments, and I think when USA Ultimate was trying to make it more standard and more viewable, this was not the product they wanted to produce, so it moved to Texas and Indiana.
Yeah, I kind of miss it. I kind of like the way that Nationals is always a wind fest, and it kind of is like that in UK University. It's held at Nottingham, which is it's called the Wind Farm. They actually changed the name of a tournament that they held there every year to the Wind Farm. Oh wow, what a catch! And when you're playing on the field, if you look out over the farmland nearby, it's just this channel, just this flat channel that goes on for kilometers. The wind just blowing constantly.
Yeah. There's something to be said for windy games. It makes cool, interesting strategies. I mean, as a coach, it's definitely more fun. It's a great catch, right?
Mm-hmm.
Good bid by the defender. So the woman making that catch is Loriana Berman. She's a fantastic player, and she plays pretty much every D point for Riot in this game, and is also a handler, which is such a valuable position. Someone who can match up on cutters or handlers, and then shepherd the flock on the turn.
More than her technical skill as a thrower, but she's one of their main handlers.
Yeah, very valuable. I think it's Lou Burris and Megan Multani and Mario O'Brien on the commentary.
Yes.
Which I haven't listened to. I know you pre-watched this game, so you can steal what they said for your own opinions if you wish. I will know no better.
Yeah, they're pretty critical of. Yeah, they're critical, which is interesting. So folks could go back and watch how critical they are. But
Bosher hits an inside-out backhand that
they
hangs up in the end
also,
zone.
I think they appreciate all the hucks that Fury takes, of which this is one, and they want Riot to take more hucks, which is, I think, a fair
Bosher hits an
criticism.
inside-out backhand that hangs up in the end zone.
Nice D. Get up 2 hands.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
there's
that's
Gwen Ambler, like we were just talking
Gwen
about.
Ambler's
She
superpower
has D
right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah,
She's
I
got-
heard her name back in the Ulti Village days as well, and then she bought one of my DVDs in 2006, and I was like, wow.
That's great. Yeah, she and I. Well, she's the head coach of Riot now, and I'm like one of her assistants this year. So it's been really great to be able to work with her. She and I were
and a
housemates
drop
for
there
a while
by
in
the
Seattle,
Bourbon
even when
comes
she
up
was
with the
playing
left
for
deep,
Fury and I
put
was
them in
playing for
position.
Riot. So
Right,
Just
nice.
down that downwind
long
sideline
history.
now.
Did you
Back
watch
around
the
with a big backhand.
replays of the games?
Doesn't look like it's
together?
gonna come back in.
Well,
Foul
so
on the
back
throw.
then there weren't really replays of the games. So like most of these were not streamed live. They were, you could watch them like months later. But we certainly talked about the games incessantly. And just Ultimate. We lived in that house with so many Ultimate people, and that was pretty much all we talked
Dion
about,
putting up a big backhand.
which was fine by me.
Yeah. We got some more questions in the chat.
Yeah.
Let's see. Ezra comments that maybe the observer's very involved. You might just be
Yeah.
surprised. Is that a Mitch Dangler with the drop here?
Yes, it is.
Oh, Mitch. Got to go 2 hands on that. He's probably got a whistle in the other hand or something.
Yeah. That's no excuse, though.
Yes, Billy says big up the wind farm. Familiar with that UK tournament. UK and Ireland always have Windfest finals. Jay Malmsteen asks, how do you approach high wind games strategically in terms of line calling? Do you keep more OD lines or switch to up or downwind? If the latter, do you have a mix or is it just your normal OD lines?
That's a great question. I don't think there's one right answer to that. You see, in the second half of this game, you see Riot actually doing the latter, the upwind, downwind. And, like, also in this game, you can bank on there being a turnover, at least one
So
in
the
every
foul is
point.
overruled
And
for
so
taking over the
at that
disc.
point, like, why would you have O&D lines?
Yeah, I agree.
think? Because you're definitely going to have to play both in every point. So I'm not a huge fan of O&D lines, especially in windy situations. I think upwind, downwind makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, I concur, and I think O&D lines is almost like a fad. Like maybe there is more to it than just everyone's doing it, so everyone's doing it. But it's they've been a relatively recent thing where people have divided their team almost, and they train separately sometimes.
Yeah, and it is it's divisive. I don't like it at all. It's like, I think a lot of people think, oh, I've made it, I'm on the O line now, or oh, I suck, I'm on the D line, or I'm on the O line, I don't have to play defense anymore. So I think there's like a mentality that goes along with it that I don't like at all.
Yeah.
So that's why even when I have teams with O and D lines, like we have hybrid lines and we have swing lines and things like that.
Yeah, I agree. I'll be happy to see the end of O&D lines, but then I'll be happy to see the end of the words cutters and handlers as well.
Yeah, me too.
When I was coaching GB, we had pods, so we had like pods of 4 players who we had identified as being well balanced, working well together, and we got them just to have particular focuses. So there was one pod that were focusing on like dribbling, like moving the disc really quickly between each other, and like a flurry of short passes, like the old Plinko offense, from multi-village days, but with a bit more organized chaos, as it were. And then you got another pod who were really good at throwing deep and catching deep, and then defense focused pods, and then using those pods also for kind of the mental side of the game as well, so they can support each other and they can talk to each other, which helps to kind of relieve some of the duties from the coaches too. Just looking at this turnover again.
Yeah, this is definitely a win one. Val Dion, one of the best Canadian women ever, she came down to play with Riot for a few seasons. just doesn't get quite low enough, and she's got a nice low release on that throw, so it's just really hard.
Yeah, it's a tough corner, isn't it, with the wind coming straight out of it.
Yep.
Oh, Rue's being super cute again.
I do like how both teams are trying to keep it on the high side, which is that far sideline from us right now. Fury, I think, does an even better job. Sometimes, like right there, you see the handler, Abby Christopher, is coming back, and instead of hitting her even though she's open, they go to kind of an inside look to gain yards, but also to keep the disc off the sideline.
I think she was almost surprised that the disc got here. Because she adjusts the run at the last minute because the defender is here. So
yeah, and I think if you could wind it back a little further in Fury's possession here, you'd actually see the same thing happening a couple times. Yeah, so here you can see number 48 is, yeah, exactly, Erin Gallagher. She's in that lane. And she maybe should have stayed in the lane there and gotten that D, but she does eventually get back in the lane. And if you're Fury, you don't like this clear straight down the sideline in front of the live play.
Yeah. Yeah, I see. Yeah, it's good defense, isn't it? Hanging out, always being aware for that. I've got a feeling you're watching the stream on YouTube, which means you're 3 seconds behind. It's okay, but just so you know, it's 3 seconds behind. So,
all right, I'll just watch the chat there, and I'll watch the game live.
I think you can export the chat as well, so it's like a separate window, so you're not overloaded.
Cool. Got it. Awesome.
Cool. I think that was a foul on the throw.
Like to flash in the lanes a lot, and that's actually how they got that D. That was Hannah Krielkamp with the Riot.
Yeah, 10-yard backhand, talking about D-line players with a chip on their shoulder. I've never had that bad problems in Brighton with O-line D-line differences, other than only the O-line played hex offense, and I had to watch the D-line get scored on even after they got turnovers because they couldn't play offense. That was annoying, but that wasn't like So I spoke to another team at one point, and they said, yeah, they lost a game they weren't expecting to lose, and like they were D-line, and they were just like, oh yeah, you know, how can you be expected to win when your O-line gets broken 6 times? And I was just like, wow, that is like a divided team there, you know, blaming half the team for a loss. But yeah, it's kind of what it sets up. It kind of, you know, it's like it's kind of like the Democrats, Republicans, you know, you make something into 2 sides, they're inevitably going to fight against each other over everything. Inevitably might be a bit strong.
Well, yeah, I think it divides the team in 2. So I think it is important to bring players over and like have them play on different lines and have people that, you know, play on both lines all the time. A great D by Gwen. I love this because, you know, she really, I can't imagine she wants to lay out for this one, but she puts it all in at the very last second. And if she doesn't touch that, Jen LaRoche definitely catches that.
Did she touch it?
Yeah.
Had a feeling it. Oh yeah, she does. Yeah. Well, it looks like the catcher wasn't. Oh yeah, okay. Catcher is going for a left hand on top clout catch.
Yeah. It just sort of changes the flight enough that Jen can't.
Yeah. Good stuff. Trey Marmosine says he should just pick one person on the team and always blame them for the loss.
Yeah.
That's efficient. It's efficient.
Yeah, I think someone earlier in the chat was asking about strategies that evolved from this like Fury Riot rivalry. I think honestly the 4-person cup in the women's game is one of those, and there's so many hand blocks in this game, by the way, so many. But yeah, the 4-person cup was how Fury destroyed Riot in the 2003 final, and in that off season, Riot, there's a woman named Mizu Kinney who's actually married to Lou Burris, who's on the call on this game. And she came up with the kind of 2-handler offense that crashes through from the handlers, because in the past it had always been poppers that crash into the cup from behind. And so that was also a strategy that evolved from that, playing against that defense, and it worked in 2004 and 2005.
Yeah, Lou Barrett's also writing the article on help defense, which, you know, I think it's probably been some of the biggest development in defensive strategy in recent years, or ever, potentially.
Yeah.
Kind of paves the way for the future.
That's another great D by Gwen.
Yeah.
Again, if she doesn't get that one, even though she doesn't feel the intended receiver is going to get it, the person behind her definitely would have.
Got Rue's on the move. That's why you're watching the stream, so you could see Rue. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. It's also easier to tell who it is, the players on the YouTube.
Oh, is it? Maybe I need to up the resolution.
It's okay. I can mostly, I know who these blobs are.
We see like some of them, and we see the front end of them, and then the screen just disappears.
So Riot right now struggling a little bit to find some space upfield.
Well, I think we've got some chat from the commentators talking to the production crew there.
Jen LaRoche on the
Yeah.
Oh, the Discord comments came through. That's crazy.
No, trying to sneak it through.
The D just looks around just at that point and is like, right, which way are you going to go? And the other one's like, oh, don't turn around. And there's a call, so is that another foul on the mark? Yeah, looks like it's
Yes.
a bit contacty.
Yeah, so I think teams that have these really strong rivalries also often, you know, question the physicality of their opponents. So, like, even when I talk to players on Riot today, they're like, oh, Fury's so foul-y, blah, 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 blah. And, like, I think there are other ways than being chippy about it to combat even the teams that are overly physical. I also prefer physicality myself, but there are quite a few fouls and, like I said, a lot of hand blocks in this game, pieces of hand blocks that change the flight of the throw. And I think this was a time when marks were really being more aggressive and more active.
Yeah, I remember there was definitely a period in Ultimate history where there was a lot of marks, fouls on the mark going on.
And lots of calls. Like, I think, you know, there may still be a lot of fouls on the mark, but a lot of throwers are just learning to call contact, which wasn't a call back then.
Exactly, yeah. Credit to the rules writers, like contact.
Yeah, and I think WIFDF had it first, so that is a great international rule before it came into the US at least.
Yep.
But then, so throwers are calling more contact calls now, and just like, I always tell my throwers that a great thrower will be more able to break the mark against a close mark. And so if you can teach yourself how to like pivot through, step through, throw through the mark, you'll actually have better breakthrows if they're that close to you that they might be fouling you.
Yeah, I think a closer mark puts pressure on a wider angle of throws, but a looser mark takes away a specific angle of throw.
Riot moving the disc well. Ginny Ewan puts up a big one.
If you could change a rule, what would you change? I would. One of the things I want to change is defenders can't call picks if they run into another defender.
Yeah, that was very confusing to me when I came to Ultimate from other sports because you know, soccer, there are no picks. Basketball picks are good, but yeah, I think there's definitely something weird about picks.
Yeah, there really is.
Yeah, I actually really like a couple of the rules changes that we have in the AUDL. I mean, obviously as a coach, I love calling timeouts from the sideline, and I love being able to substitute on timeouts. So I like those rules changes.
I like the 7-second still count as well, and I like double team.
Worst case scenario, you go up and you're
Oh yeah, double team. I love double teams too. Again, anything to me that makes it more interesting to coach, more options for strategy. I like it.
Yeah. Joe Mumston asked why you don't have picks set more in soccer. I think it's because the defense is prepared for it, or like, So if you look at England's corners from the last World Cup, then England football team, soccer team, actually like stack up in the penalty box, right? Because for corners you march 1-to-1, so they stack up so that then the 1-to-1 defenders get picked basically, and then they're free to like get a header. And so it's interesting. That's the counter to 1-to-1 marking in soccer, or at least in England's plan.
Yeah, I was a goalkeeper when I played soccer, and like on corner kicks again, goalkeepers definitely get picked, or try to be picked, or blocked. So there are situations. I think with the bigger field, it's a lot harder though.
Yeah, well, I think the defenders don't play 1-to-1 as much, really. Like if you're not playing 1-to-1, then pick isn't really a thing. So I think the Lou Burris helped defenses evolve strategy in defense, or could do. I think Brian Jones is having success with such success against Revolver with the flash poaching type defense, the evolving defense. I think if picks were removed from the game, then it would also evolve the development of defensive strategy, because if picks were legal, then suddenly like the vert stack is like more formidable, right? Because they can just stack up and cut break side, and so then defense would be like, right, okay, we have to surround them, and then now someone's cut break side and taken that mark. We need to actually fill that gap with another defender. Like so, the strategy would then evolve from level to level.
Yes, and you'd have a lot more interesting switches and more cushions from defenders. Yeah, sort of circling around the offenders rather than matched up.
Yeah,
I think.
Exactly.
Yeah, you worry that in that like transition time that you'd have some injuries, because you'd have people running full speed into picks, which in basketball it's fine because you can't get up that much speed, because most picks happen like from the 3-point line closer, but in ultimate it could be really bad. Yeah,
that is definitely kind of the main concern. Just looking at travels here. So I'm a fan of like the inward pivot. So it's kind of traditional to like catch in this kind of scenario and turn around the outside and then look downfield, right? And again, potentially American football influence, make a pass, look for the next gainer. A little travel always happens. Okay, so you see that first step was even slightly bent, and then there's a second one, and then there's third one is obviously completely different direction. But that's everyone does that, right? And then this one's interesting because like, okay, they go towards it slightly, 2 feet down, 1 foot here, and then this foot goes out quite wide, right? So that's now the direction that they're going in, and then able to get this big step. So then
it's a left-handed player, so it looks even weirder because just when you think they've set their pivot foot, I think that's Ness Fajardo.
Is that left?
Steps through with it.
Lefties are allowed to travel though, right? That's
so my thrower when I was in college, as I was like catching a bunch of goals from this one thrower, Maria Grigorieva, and she was left-handed, and she got called for so many travels, and every single time she would say, "I'm just left-handed."
Yes.
Just left.
Sometimes it's true.
And it's true, but she also was traveling. I think it's hard because most coaches are right-handed, and so most left-handed players are having to learn in mirror from their coaches. So it's a lot easier for right-handed players to learn how to get their feet set and release without traveling. And left-handed players, I think it's just much harder for them. They don't have as many role models, really.
Interesting. I've been playing long enough that I've developed lefty throws as well. There's a point you get to when you're throwing around where you have more fun if you're challenged by having to learn lefty flicks and hammers and stuff.
Yeah, I also, when I'm teaching like new players that are left-handed, I often throw left-handed with them so they just don't have to make that mental switch. That's something I do as well. Super handy. I used to try and demonstrate wobbly throws, and I lost the ability to do that. What a blessing.
The first time I realised when I was actually trying to demonstrate it, and I hadn't realised that I couldn't anymore, then it just looked like I was just a massive egoist. You're just like showing off in front of you.
This might be a good point to talk about more about the 4-person cup, and this also is more the 1-3-3 with Alicia Barr on the mark like most of the time. And like I said, Fury has capitalized on this defense and versions of it a lot, and just in this point here. But yeah, this is a defense also that Sockeye ran a version of it, and the University of Florida team with Kurt Gibson and Tim Garrett were extremely successful with a 4-person cup. We call it the Florida 4-man oftentimes, and yeah, they were very successful with it. So that is a strategy that you see in Open Ultimate as well.
I can play
Period is the best.
I can play it through, like speed it up, if that kind of helps us kind of see the movement of it at all. You see the cup kind of following.
And what Fury is good as, like, you think that Riot just broke it out over the cup, but their wing is the one that gets that D, which is so great.
Right. And then this is a great catch, but
I know
the disc is coming back.
Yeah, I believe this is just the second year on the team for Khalees Cardenas, who is still on Riot.
Foreshadowing Cardenas.
Mm-hmm.
Clap catch layout.
Wind. I think wind is the one time I'm like, okay, you can clap catch layout.
Yeah, I don't have a huge amount against clap catch layouts, other than they are more likely to cause injury. But then I played with a player who always clap caught layout, and he never injured himself. So it's a little bit of everything.
Not the way you want to teach it, but
yeah. I mean, people also swear by, like, you want to catch and land on your chest, but I would lay out a lot when I was playing, and I would always turn naturally, like stretch with my right arm and then turn and like land kind of on the back of my shoulder and then go into a roll, like automatically into the roll. And I never
with my husband, that's how he lays out, and I always make fun of him.
But I never injured myself doing that. And then I started trying to learn the proper technique, and immediately, well, not immediately, but then I like did my pulled my shoulder up and then strained the tendon on the outside. Couldn't throw hammers anymore.
Yeah, I think for me, from being a goalkeeper, there's like the play where you kind of like when the ball is coming right at you and you kind of lay out towards it. And that to me was a very similar motion to when you're catching a disc that's like trailing away from you or something like that. So that was how I learned to lay out.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense actually, that you're a goalkeeper.
Puts a nice back over the top. Fury scoring upwind there. That's Emily Damon finding Alicia Barr.
Yeah, I think I did some goalkeeping, and I did swimming as well. I thought maybe like diving into a swimming pool was good for like training your body to actually be comfortable not landing on your feet.
Yeah, I did gymnastics, and I was a diver for like the beginning half of my sports career. And I think, that fearlessness that it takes to like do a backflip and fall, or like be on the beam and fall all the time, or dive into the pool in weird ways, like that is very similar to laying out an ultimate.
Yeah. Some chat in the Joe Malmsteen saying lefties are cheaters. I think you said that before. It's like we just got a taking your eyes off the disc kind of term.
Yeah, and that's Loriana again, and she has an amazing game for Riot this game, and that's like the one blip on her stat sheet. Speaking of lefties or cheaters, I'm interested what you think. So my daughter, we've been playing a little bit of baseball at home. She's 3, but we're trying to have her hit like a wiffle ball. Mm-hmm. And she's hitting left-handed, and she does other things right-handed, but some things left-handed. I'm wondering what people think. Should we encourage the left-handedness? Isn't it an advantage in sports, or is it something? Are they just cheaters? And I don't want a cheater for a daughter.
I think you know the answer to that question. Personally, I think you should go for the ambidextrosity. Ambidextrosity. I think the ideal frisbee technique is where you can catch a disc, get your feet so that you're facing infield, right, where the center of the space is, rather than downfield. And then have your feet like shoulder width apart, but have it so that you can have either one as your pivot, and it's still not a travel. And then disc in both hands, kind of do what I call the serpent or the snake, where you're like winding up the back on both sides as fakes, and then throw flicks if you can. But if the force is stopping your flick, then just step out for the backhand on whichever side you need to.
And hope you don't travel. Hope you don't have to fake too many times.
Yeah, well, the fakes are just winding up for the backhand, right?
Right.
So you can wind up for the backhand on either side, and the force has to like cover quite a big distance. But then, if you definitely want to throw on one side, then that's the only time that you lift your foot up. If you have to get around the force, I think it's an idealistic kind of thing. But yeah, maybe your daughter can be the first.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you know any players that do that.
No, there was a player in US. Idaho was maybe the closest.
Oh, yeah. He lived with me and Glenn at that house in Seattle.
Of course.
Yeah,
all the best players just live together.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. Yeah, Idaho definitely threw both hammers. Yeah, I think that was how he used it the most, was throwing both hammers based on where the cut was going, which I totally think is great. But he used lefty forehands very little, I think.
Yeah.
There's another player. I actually got to coach Chris Kasednar when he was in high school, and this was at a camp because he was from Alaska. I was coaching at Nutsy, and he came, and we had the campers like write their goals at the beginning of the week, and he was like, I really want to work on my lefty pulls. And I was like, what? Like, what does that mean? Why would you say lefty? Are you left-handed? Like, what's happening? And so he's a right-handed player, but he could pull with both hands, which I think was kind of cool based on the wind. He would choose one or the other. And he could also huck with both backhands, like you were kind of talking about, is like if it's a backhand huck situation, like if you're going up what would be the righty forehand like lane from a handler spot cutting up the line, and there's a huck opportunity, he would take a backhand on the lefty side. For the most part, play right-handed otherwise.
Yeah. And I guess having a lefty pull is useful for the wind, as you say. My initial reaction was like, that's the only time when like you're under no pressure and you can throw whatever you want. So why would you bother? But then the wind, definitely does affect it. Morgan Hibbett. Owen Freed suggests.
Yep, that's absolutely true. I think he is also like he favors his right hand, but I think again like when he had knee injuries that might have also played a role in which hand he used more. But yeah, CK did play D-line, but when he was, I think the last time that happened was like 2007.
So an inside backhand break and defender.
I missed that point.
Now in a good position, clear Suver outside the end zone.
I'm wondering about Rue. I'm wondering if she's asleep with her eyes open.
So an inside
You told me to stop watching the YouTube, so I haven't checked in on it. Oh yeah, she's dreaming.
I think she is. I kind of. Oh no, she's alright. Hello, Rue.
We're gonna see here on the street. Val Dion.
And then you've got players who are just amazing athletes, full control of their body, like Mike Grant in 2004 in Finland. I think he had dislocated his right elbow because the player running past as he was winding up for a sidearm. And so he had to play left-handed at Worlds, and he threw like a 35-yard backhand in the final. Because I think USA were kind of trying to force him into the slightly longer throws, and he was just like, okay.
Yeah. Mike Grant is actually my pick for greatest men's player ever. I'm sure there's lots of people who would. You can dispute that in the chat if you'd like, but yeah, he's my favorite player, and especially because he was playing in the Northwest when I was here in the US and got to see him play a lot and respect his game a ton.
Yeah, I think that's not a bad shout at all.
Emily Damon with the disc for Fury.
Did you read the article he wrote?
I did. It was lovely. I actually
Damon and
the last time I coached at Ultimate Peace, he was there as well, and it was great because I hadn't seen him in a long time, and it was great to like reconnect then. But yeah, I was wondering what was going on, and that article definitely like made a lot of sense, and I totally sympathize with the void that stopping playing leaves for you.
Yeah.
I've mostly filled it with coaching and
I was gonna
denial.
say.
But, yeah.
I was gonna say it's either partner, family, or coaching. Getting stuck into that.
I think my partner and my family would agree that I've filled it with coaching. So I do think this is like an important time in the game. So it's tied at 4s right now. Fury going upwind. And
Nice.
this is like a big momentum thing. And Riot's playing great D. But I think this is Maddie Fry almost getting this layout D on the upline.
Yeah, just slightly asleep on the positioning here. Looks like there's always a pick actually, but I think it's the offense chooses the right moment. You can just if people can see from the pixels, it's as the defense turn their head. I think then the offense chooses to make the move. And I love these throws going into the wind because you can just sit them in the space and the wind helps you. Yeah, if you can get the wind working for you rather than fighting against it, then you're on the right path.
Right. And just a lovely catch there. I'm trying to see who that is. Oh, maybe Alicia Dansker?
Caleb Jorgensen.
Oh, Kayla Jorgensen, yeah.
Jorgensen gets nasty on this one.
Yeah, this was also one of Kayla's first years on Fury. And again, just someone who has completely come to define the team with this kind of play. I think Fury got the rep in maybe the 5 to 7 years preceding this game. They were always going to be the smarter and more skilled team, but that like Riot was going to be more athletic and full of heart. And players like Kayla and Georgia Boscher, who's in this game as well, really started to flip the script and I think forced Riot and other teams to become more cerebral and really try to be more thoughtful about what they're doing. You can't just grit out every single play.
You mentioned Ultimate Peace. You're the director of coaching.
Yeah.
Would you like to talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. I'm not as involved with it anymore, but I helped to start the organization, went on the first trip over to the Middle East in, I think it was in 2008, maybe 2007. And yeah, I think for me it was this really important time in my career where I had kind of gotten complacent. I'd been playing for about 10 years and we had forgotten what it was like to play other sports like soccer or basketball. Because when you first start playing Ultimate, you're like, oh my gosh, this is so different, so new. But going back to Ultimate Peace, it really reminded me how important the conflict resolution and self-officiation and trust between opponents is. And it was so cool to then see that power of Ultimate being harnessed in a peace-building process in the Middle East. So yeah, it's definitely one of the best things Ultimate has brought me, and I hope I keep contributing to it over the years.
Yeah, I've done some work with 10 Million Discs and Trent Simmons, and this defender just falls. No, don't okay about that shoulder. And then starts walking slowly over here. No.
It's funny, that's the same defender who got that really great heads-up poach D earlier.
Oh, really?
Different point, different player.
Yeah, and then it's pretty high disc. Like that's actually
caught that.
That's actually like a good jump.
Yeah.
So maybe not good for the clap catch, but maybe get a second hand up there, but yeah, it could have popped up even further, you know. So yeah, I did some work with 10 million discs and Trent Simmons, and I learned a lot more about Spirit as well, and how Spirit can be applied to communities and to civilizations almost, right? And one of the things of 10 million discs is that they're trying to kind of make an impact on society through Ultimate and through the lessons of Spirit. And that kind of they get a lot of their funding with that kind of message in mind as well. Like, you know, the US Embassy in Albania, for example, you know, wanted to do something positive for the community, so they funded these discs which had the US flag and Albanian flag and had translations of some words, and tried to kind of like connect more with the community and society through that. And yeah, really kind of good work and eye-opening as well. It helps you see, puts Ultimate in a bit more context, you know, so very valuable. If anyone wants to volunteer, do any of that work, then send me an email, felix@felixultimate.com, and I'll put you in touch with Trent, or, you know, or the Ultimate Peace Path. Is Ultimate Peace work exclusively in kind of Israel-Palestine kind of?
Yeah, there have been like forays into other communities. There's some work definitely that was happening in Colombia and Medellin, and then some also like it's been happening in cities in the United States because, as you may know, there's still a lot of like segregation between neighborhoods, different races, and like within a city. Like, for example, in my city, Atlanta, there are neighborhoods that are like completely one race or the other, and getting kids together from different communities to play Ultimate is actually like really valuable within a city here. And so there have been some, again, small projects in the United States, but it's mostly the work that's happening in the Middle East.
Okay. Yeah, maybe they need to do that for the partisan lines. Yeah, I don't know. Things are getting pretty divided in that regard. Yeah, that would be good. It would be useful. We were talking about experiences as a coach before. What was it we were saying? I can remember what I'm about to say, but what was it? Oh yeah, the experience of having like development, like, you know, a beginnerish kind of team, you know, developing team, and then having an elite team, and being able to kind of develop yourself as a coach by going in between the two. Oh, look, nice shot by the cameraman here. We're always looking for those ones. That's a hard tracking job. When I was in Albania doing this work with 10 million discs, I went and ran it. Should I replay? Brilliant. This is the kind of camera crew I like. I do a lot of
about Sarasota.
I do a lot of camera work with LTTV, so I'm very familiar with the production process. Anyway, yes, in Albania, I think Rue's getting annoyed with the light that's on this camera. Look at her face. She's just like staring. In Albania, was running a session with the kids of the people who are living at the US Embassy, or the US kind of compound that they have. And so, yeah, went there, and like half of the area was like with kids, and then we also had parents who were mostly just kind of looking after the kids, but then we had US Marines, right? So I got to coach 12 US Marines, and they had played Ultimate before a little bit, right? They play in Baghdad during the Iraq conflict. They're actually playing Ultimate in the US camps there. I guess because it's, you know, non-contact and don't need much equipment and that kind of stuff. But like setting up a drill, when you're used to like telling, you know, university freshers and stuff to go stand in lines and which way they should run, and then you have to explain to them again and again and again because they were chatting, and then having the experience of 12 US Marines, just where you give them an instruction and they're just doing it before you finish the sentence. It's just every coach should have, you know, that experience of just like that amount of like obedience to your instructions is just something else completely.
Yeah, I remember Ben Wiggins, I think, he in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, got a chance to go and coach Ultimate on an Army base in Washington State, and he came back and was like, Oh, I wish I could coach them all the time. And now you actually see some really great teams coming out of the like U.S. military colleges here in the United States.
All right.
Some deep champions.
Again,
Wow.
another bid there by
Yeah, I could imagine, like, if they just hit the club scene, then
Oh man.
so there's a level of like athleticism there that people just aren't prepared for. I think.
Right. That people sometimes ask me, like, who do I think would win, like Atlanta Hustle versus the Atlanta Hawks? I'm like, the Hawks. It's always the Hawks. And they're like, how long would you have to coach them before they would win? I was like, 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Somewhere the end zone is, and they'll be fine.
Yeah, I've thought about people coming from other sports and
Taking a look at that
if if they're like, right, what's strategy? And I've just imagined what the reaction would be when you tell them about vertical stack, and they'd be like, surely not. surely that's not the best way to play. Like, just any people that play like a team sport where it's on a field and they can move freely and there's an object, they spread out, like, unless it's American football. American football is pretty much the only exception that I can think of where people like line up or like. But then again, that's kind of a lot of that's dictated by the rules. But, when you think about soccer, when you think about hockey, basketball and everything like that, then there's it's spreading out. And I wonder if they're playing defense. So if you have a team of rugby sevens team, who like all know each other really really well, incredibly athletic, and then they go out and they play against a team and this team stacks up, like, what are they going to do? Are they going to mark them 1-to-1, or are they going to surround the stack?
Yeah, I don't know, but I all I can say is that the athletes that I've coached that have come over from American football, I guess I haven't played any. Well, no, I do have an ex-rugby player who captains the Hustle for me this year. Actually, they're all really good at Ultimate. So I think it may, in the United States at least, just be like a caliber of athlete that those other sports draw from a young age that we just like don't see in Ultimate until they're done with that other sport.
Yeah, well, all the best players I know in the UK came from either soccer or beach volleyball. Probably the best player that I've coached was runner-up in beach volleyball under 18 before they came to university.
Yeah, beach volleyball athletes are something else. They are phenomenal. I would love to get Misty May Trainer out on the field for me.
So what do you think? What do you think Ultimate could do to attract more like female athletes to the sport? Because I feel like maybe it's not a female-male thing, but athletes kind of tend to go if they know they're athletic and can be good at whatever sport they do, then they tend to do a more mainstream sport.
Yeah, so I think I saw the one question maybe we haven't answered yet from the chat was about visibility of Ultimate period, but especially women's Ultimate, like before this game, basically before 2011. And yeah, there really wasn't much. Like, you would wait like 3 months and then you would get your Ulti Village highlight reel, maybe. And then if you weren't one of the top 2 or 3 teams, you wouldn't be on that. So like, I mean, I played with boys. I was on the open team at Paideia. I played a fall season with the boys at Carleton. Like, it was really not a friendly space to learn how to play a new sport. So I think there's accessibility and there's also visibility that I think could go a long, long way. So like, hopefully there's some fans of the PUL and the WUL out there who want to see more games like this one that we're watching today all the time, so that when games start being played that they could like actually see those. And then you might actually start getting some young, especially female athletes, seeing those games and wanting to play the sport. Here in the United States, a really interesting thing that happens with sports is that you can get a college scholarship. You can go to college for free, to university for free, for being good at a sport. And so I don't know what is it like in Great Britain? That doesn't happen, right?
I don't think that happens so much. Like, we do have like even at Sussex, we've got like a sports scholarship scheme where you can, you know, get free gym access and stuff if you can show that you're like a national level competing athlete. But I really don't feel like there's the same culture of like, if you're good at sport, then that can basically see you through your education.
Right. So I think a lot of people, especially people who wouldn't otherwise be able to pay for their university education, see sports as a way to get that education. And so, you know, I would love for there to be scholarships for, Cree, such a great bid. Give that woman a scholarship. But yeah, I think if there were scholarships for women's ultimate, like we would have to be regulated by the NCAA. That would actually be a huge, like an immediate surge of phenomenal athletes would start playing ultimate. They would start playing earlier. We saw actually something like this when I was in high school with women's volleyball. Was a fairly new sport, and it was like relatively easy to get a college scholarship to play volleyball. And because we have in the U.S. what's a ruling called Title IX, which basically says that in educational opportunities, it has to be, can't be discriminatory based on sex or anything else. And so any opportunity that's available for men needs to be available for women. So, you know, you have all these giant men's American football teams in college, and you could imagine potentially evening out those scholarship numbers by adding women's ultimate as an NCAA sport. And I think that would be amazing. And for ultimate as a sport, that would be such a statement to add women's ultimate basically before men's ultimate as an NCAA sport.
So what needs to change for that to happen?
I think I don't know enough about like how the NCAA chooses which sports become intercollegiate Division I or whatever. I know that a lot of schools, a lot of colleges, I know Brown University and Stanford University both have been changing which of their sports this year are being funded at a Division I level. So there is some flexibility there. We just need to somehow get on the radar. And I think that's why it's good that, like, you know, the Olympics is a possibility for ultimate, and that we are having professional leagues, because I think the NCAA would definitely pay attention to that. Are you liking this zone offense or disliking zone offense?
I'm liking it. So early on, there's plenty of these pop passes like into the middle. So when I coach teams to play against zone, it's like, okay, there's three ways. You either go over it, or you go around it, or you go through it. And so the through is with these kind of passes, getting these ones in here, and then having these channels through like that, and defense does well to kind of get in front and stop them. It would make me sad if they were double teams, but I don't think they are double teams because you've got the other handler quite close. Right. And then doing the same move again, you know, and it gets that cup kind of compacting, and then you can go around, right? Which then happens in a couple of passes. And something that the Japanese women's teams do very well is spacing, right? Consistency and spacing. And this is something that when you see it, then it inevitably kind of, like, the offense then ends up clicking really nicely. So here you've got like a space here, and then a little bit far on this one, but there's again that connection, okay? And then the key is then having the next player, wherever they come from, then, you know, making a move for then a similar length pass, right? So 1, 2, and then 3 over to here, and just very, very quickly then the disc is going right from one side of the field right to the other, and all the cup has to run across, and then you can try and like go through again, and then around. But yeah, the Japanese women's teams, they have that spacing consistent around all their players, and they surround the disc and stuff, and then as soon as they get it moving, and all their techniques look exactly the same as well. It's just like catch, pivot, backhand throw, catch, pivot, backhand throw, catch, pivot, backhand throw, and it's just like so rhythmic. Very difficult to stop that offense.
Yeah, and I think as a cutter, you know, I was usually a popper in zone offenses, and I loved handlers. And honestly, this number 88, Claire Suver, who has the disc right now, is one of my favorite handlers to play with, because it's all very like predictable as a cutter. Like you know when she's faking, you know when she's going to actually throw it, you know she's going to like look to the continuation throw first and then back to the counter, or like this look then that look, then she's going to look over. And I think you're right that, you know, Uno and Mud have been amazing at that for many years.
Yeah, and you know, I can't say all that without talking about hex offense as well. Where,
I was wondering if that was kind of what I was seeing on that last Riot O point or O possession was, I was like, oh, that looks like soccer. It looks like they're switching the fields and advancing it, and then like switching it and advancing it. Yeah.
And in terms of spacing, you know, if you have even the horizontal stack, then the spacing is irregular, you know, between handler to handler, handler to cutter, cutter to cutter. All those distances are different. In hex, because it's kind of, you know, like a network with one node in the middle and 6 around the edge, all of the spaces, all of the spacing is exactly equal. So therefore, like if you gravitate towards that, and if you tend towards that, then your offense tends towards rhythm. And it sounds a bit ethereal, right? But
it sounds great to me.
Yeah. Oh, it's so much fun. Like and it, like the fact that you have all those kind of shortish kind of options quite nearby means you can then follow the disc whenever you throw it, and just bounce the disc around the place and keep the defense on the back foot. And then
so we can watch that last bit of
rewind.
I think a little bit, that. But yeah, sorry to interrupt. Keep talking about the hex because I'm totally going to steal it from you.
Well, I've got videos and stuff online for it, so it's very easy to steal. However, if you want to train it, that's the bit that I've realized I have to actually monetize. Yeah. Otherwise I have to become a bin man or something. Maybe clean beaches for a living. That's my kind of like fallback. But yeah, so on my Patreon, you can there's like 3 videos now, like how to train hex offense. But if you want to just know how to play it, and then as a coach you can figure out how to train it, I encourage all coaches to develop new ways of training this new approach to the game. Then yeah, just watching the how to play videos will give you good enough idea. Yeah, so as well as the equal spacing, so you can actually bounce the disc around, bam, 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 bam. You can also follow the disc and have lots of support around you as you're like give going. And then if you string together the give goes, that becomes what some people call dribbling, right? When you change the direction that you're running in with the disc in your hand, but you don't lose your kind of momentum, kind of like an ebb and a flow kind of thing. And then to round off the fully balanced nature of it, the deep options could just come from anywhere on the field. You never know who could go deep. It could be anyone in any position on the field. And then when the disc's on the sideline, the deep space is huge because the how like sometimes the disc on the sideline and invert stack people like rotate the field, and so the stack almost kind of goes the way around, so it's pointing towards the sideline. In hex you rotate as well, right? And the shape is always the shape, right? And when the disc's on the sideline, the shape just extends out towards the middle of the space, so therefore directly in field. If it's on the brick, then it extends towards the end zone.
Yeah, so that does really remind me of the triangle offense in basketball, of like based on where the ball is, you want to like have triangles made with you want to have triangles, and I think that happens in soccer too, to have that triangular spacing to beat defense. It's a pretty fundamental thing in a lot of team sports, equilateral triangles. Yep.
Did you want to talk about this point?
Sure. Yeah. So a couple things. First of all, yes, Alex Snyder is perhaps the greatest player of this decade. And I think her fake that gets the mark off balance there is amazing. Now she turns her back on the downfield, which is not something I would coach players, but she obviously does just fine with it. So she really makes the mark move and even fall down. And, Alex is not incredibly tall. She's like 5'6" or 5'7", but her release is so fast and in such a great spot. And again, like she throws this throw probably 10 times in this game to get Fury the advantage. I mean, she's the MVP of this final for sure. You see, she's like far away from the mark when she's releasing, but she's not off balance, and it's not like there's not a ton of edge on this throw. She's actually just throwing a nice flat throw to the break side, which is super easy to catch.
Yeah, that is really nice. And I agree with you about not turning your back as well. Like I tend to coach, if you're going to pivot for the backhand, then you want to step, you want to keep the disc in front of you and step back towards the forehand whilst facing downfield. But yeah, that gets their head around nice and quick to immediately connect with the downfield, and then this is just a quick release, super accurate. Receiver expecting it as well.
And it's interesting, they do an interview with Serge at halftime, because this Fury just takes half with this, and Serge says that they want to adjust to have the mark take away the around throw, which I'm not sure. Like, I think around throws, especially in this wind, like those are the ones that are popping up and getting D'd and going out of bounds. So I'm not sure you really need to worry about that so much. But then she talks about having the downfield defender taking away the inside look more, which I think is a lot to ask of the downfield defender.
Okay. Cool. Okay. I don't think we'll watch the interviews, but that is Matty Sang, is that?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, Rue's dreaming and her little toes are twitching, so I got that on camera.
GB.
Sorry?
Oh, I said it must be y'all's bedtime in Great Britain.
Yeah, it is, yeah. Yes, well, it's half time as well, so it's kind of the natural, and midnight too, so it's all come together. So if you've got, do you have like 10 or 20 minutes?
Sure, no problem.
Cool. Okay. Well, what we'll do is, for those viewers who are patrons, they can come to Discord and chat with you. I will take a back seat and do some admin stuff, whilst the patrons, ask questions or just say hello or whatever. And if none of them turn up, then we can chat a little bit, and then just 10 or 20 minutes, and then you'll be coming back next week. Is that right?
Great. Yep.
Awesome. Okay, let me just get the stuff up that I do at the end of the stream. So a big shout out. If you're not a patron, by the way, viewers, then you can become a patron on patreon.com/FelixUltimate. Patrons are the reason why I keep doing this. And if the patronage dries up, then the live streams will dry up. Sad but true. And yeah, I'll go litter picking for the rest of my life. So dramatic. So here are all the patrons. So massive shout out to all these supporters of the stream. Here's your name, Miranda.
I will after this.
Oh, no, I didn't mean to add pressure. Look, plenty of other co-hosts aren't patrons, so don't worry about it. That said, anyone that could be a patron, it means a lot to me, so do appreciate it. And then if you become a patron now, viewers, then you can join the Discord and chat to Miranda, ask questions. There hasn't been that much chat about women's ultimate stuff, so maybe there's some budding female coaches or something who would jump on this opportunity to ask questions and find out. I've got to add Joe again to this list, I believe. These are the top donators, so every time these people donated, then Rue got some biscuits. Here's all the film sessions that I've done, and all these ones are available on YouTube, and then the ones down here, like the second halves, are available to patrons only. I've done some restreams recently where I've done like private streams with teams, and then shown them again and kind of analyzed them from my YouTube chat. that's also another service that I do if people want me to analyze their team privately, whether you want it to be public at a later date or if you want it to stay private, then that is a service that I offer, which is, related to my skill set. Brilliant. So shout out to all those patrons. Much appreciate your support. Now let me check here. Yeah, so next week, got the part 2 of the Stevens Institute of Technology. They play Hex offense, and they organized a private team session with me. So on Wednesday, I'm going through the second part of the live session that I ran with them, critiquing their offense and praising it, where needed. They had lots of really good shape, and they had a couple of really good players that could move the dish really, really quickly. So it's quite cool to watch. We also have the coach of that Stevens team, and he's going to be in the live chat, and he's also going to do a Q&A session at the end of that. So if you have any questions, anybody viewing, or Miranda, you said you're interested in learning more about it. If you want to chat to CJ, a coach who maybe has almost a better perspective on it than me, because when I've been doing the when you get like too into something and you're so deep into it, then it's harder to connect with people that haven't experienced it at all. So CJ, the coach, maybe is a good kind of in between. So here we're doing the Q&A at the end of the stream on Wednesday, and then same time next week, this Friday session, 10:30 p.m. for UK, 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. Miranda will be back for part 2 of Fury vs. Riot 2011. So that leaves us just to head to Discord.
Awesome.
I've only scratched the surface of Miranda's knowledge and experience in the game, so I look forward to if any patrons are still awake and they have questions. Thank you, Miranda, for joining me today.
My pleasure.
And thank you, everybody, for watching the stream. Rue says thank you as well. The little twitchy toes. Oh. Yes, thank you, everybody, for watching. And I'll see you again soon.
Yes, you're good. Oh, yeah.